there are no xenophobic attacks in South Africa. There have been attacks on foreign nationals, which is unfortunate, and that law enforcement has to do their work, and we have been insisted on them doing their work, including yesterday's discussion in Cabinet. It was very clear, it was communicated to the law enforcement departments, and state security is not part of law enforcement department, to the law enforcement departments, that they must make sure that the perpetrators and instigators are brought to book, and those who attack people are brought to book, because you can't have people willy-nilly deciding to attack others with no basis of the attack, based on a sentiment. And this is related to the tribal mobilization that is happening, that there's a grouping that wants to mobilize people around a particular tribe. So if you cannot speak that language, then you are deemed a foreign national and you are undocumented. You'll recall in one of the videos, there's a vendor guy who they want a passport for, and he tells them, but I am vendor, and so I will not have a passport, I have an ID. And they continued to attack him, to harass him. And he was just saved by the community. So that's why we're saying this thing is meant to undermine and destabilize the country, and we must call it for what it is. The mobilization against foreign national, it's a ruse that people are using to then want to mobilize society against the genuine concerns of South Africans. There are problems in South Africa of high unemployment. There are problems of employers choosing to employ foreign nationals because they can abuse them for cheap labor without following the labor laws of the country, and then forgo a South African. And there's the narrative that says South Africans will not take up those jobs. Why do you say South Africans will not take up those jobs when they are looking for employment? But there's also the part that South Africans are playing themselves, of when government made an intervention last year to say all informal businesses, including spaza shops, we must have business licenses, trading licenses. There was even waivers of registration fees. And what we needed was the papers that you are in the country. And we must also be clear, refugees, not the ones who go home during Christmas holidays, true refugees that are fleeing for one reason or the others and have been registered in accordance to South African law and international law as refugees, they are allowed to do business in South Africa and to find employment in South Africa. Why? Because South Africa does not host refugees in refugee camps. We allow them to integrate into communities. Unlike in other countries in the continent where refugees are hosted in refugee camps, they are integrated. And we at the point when we took the decision, was saying government will not be able to afford providing for refugees in refugee camps, and it will be better to get them to integrate into communities. So then when you go out and attack a foreign national on the guise that he's a foreign national without knowing his refugee status, it's a problem. And it's not true that government is not doing their part. We have been consistent. You'll remember that this is the very government that has established the Border Management Authority to strengthen the work at the border, at the ports of entry in South Africa. It is this very government that has done investigations, arrested people, and fired people for corruption in the border. It is this very government that has, since the establishment of the BMA, has deported over 500,000 illegal immigrants in the country. It is this border that has said to South Africans, come and register for spaza shops, come and register for informal trading. But it's South Africans who are choosing to sublease. When the laws are very clear, the bylaws of municipalities are very clear that when you have that license, you cannot sublease it. It's for you to do business. It is this very government that have intervention programs to support through the Department of Small Business Development, to support informal and small business traders, or what you call micro business owners, to do their businesses, including the various spaza shops, hair salons, motor mechanic, panel beating, and so forth. And I know I was the Minister of Small Business Development when we first introduced the packages to support those micro businesses. So you cannot say there are no intervention. We have gone further, by the way. We have gone further and said we need to revise the immigration laws. We had the draft white paper on immigration and refugee protection, and we revised it again because there were gaps that were not included in the draft white paper. We've revised it and we've approved it, and Home Affairs is working for it to be a bill. in that we have made provision of first country of safety. You'll recall in the previous post-cabinet briefing, I indicated that in terms of first country of safety principle says, if there's a war in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, in Eswatini, in Lesotho, in Botswana, in Namibia, the first country of safety can be South Africa or any other, because we're the first country that they go to. And I indicated at that briefing that there is no war even within the SADC region where people could justify flocking to South Africa. The wars that we know of now, it's in Sudan. And South Africa and Sudan, there are many countries of safety before Sudanese could arrive here. We have said we need to deal with, we are putting that provision in our laws so that we can be able to remove people who want to seek refugee status.
Africa for Africans. But the very same people that are saying Africa for Africans is chasing out people that are coming from Zimbabwe and Malawi, whatever the case may be. And that these were not the borders that we drew. Borders, white people drew these borders, but you define your identity as a South African by the very same borders that a white man drew. I'm trying to make a point in terms of, you know, we preach something about this Ubuntu and Africanism.
Yeah.
But in practice, we chase out, we are xenophobic against black people, African people that come from a neighboring country. We are more accepting of a white man that came. Remember, all these laws that we have were drafted and crafted by white people.
Yeah, Dutch.
We are still using
Dutch
the
laws,
very same laws that they made and imposed themselves in this country. And I'm not anti-white. I'm not trying to drive an agenda that white people must go. I'm trying to say these very same laws that were made in the Anti-Immigration Act and whatever the case is, while it has reason to it, why can you not impose the same sort of, employ the same strategy that none of you are from here? Because if a black person wants to put out another black person, and you can't even tell the white man to go out, then we might as well, we have the right to say everybody must go, you know, because everybody found us here. Like they telling other Africans, hey, this is our country, you're finding us here now, and therefore you must go. The point I'm just trying to make through all of this is, we preach one concept of Africanism and Ubuntu and Africa for Africans, but in practice, we will put out another African. Instead of understanding, they come here. Remember, there's no white man that will come to South Africa who are from Europe.
For asylum.
Yeah, from Europe, will come, is poor and whatever,
No.
because they've benefited off of colonization. They've been empowered. Now, black people, that African, let me use the term African.
Yeah.
African people that have suffered fundamentally through because of colonization,
Which still happens today.
Yes.
Yeah.
They come here because there's an opportunity here, regardless of how this opportunity has come about. There's an opportunity here. You'd rather chase away this this African person, right? Then try and find out how can we then accommodate them. You know, how can we give them the, you know, whatever it is that we need when you catch them, because they're here out of desperation. A white man doesn't come here out of desperation. He comes here out of luxury and enjoyment. So the point I was, just to close off the point I was making is, you know, what we preach about Africanism. We are the first people that have shown Ubuntu to everybody. Even when it came, even if you want to talk about tricameral system, if you want to talk about colored people, this colored identity, we rejected the tricameral system when white people said, hey, you know, we'll give these people, colored people, we'll include them into parliament, but black people must stay out. We are the ones that said, no, we will not accept anything unless everybody is included. And today, we are experiencing the back end of it. You know, you are not black enough to be an African. Yet, the very Bushman people that they found here were light-skinned people, or lighter-skinned people, yellow-skinned people. So, we have a skewed perception of how we want to exercise Africanism. It's based on how we can benefit.
Personal preference.
You know,